He was only supposed to deliver medicine. That's what he told himself as he rode across the dry ridges toward the Apache village, a quick favor for a hunting party he'd helped 3 days earlier. But when he arrived, dust settling beneath his boots and the sun dipping low over the mesas, he realized the entire village had gathered as if expecting him. The chief stood at the front, tall and composed, her weathered face lined with both strength and gentleness. Behind her were 3 young women, 3 sisters, standing side by side like steps of the same heartbeat. All 3 watched him closely, not with flirtation, but with an observant warmth that made him strangely self-conscious. The evening light painted everything gold, the woven roofs, the cooking fires, the feathers braided into the women's hair. A soft drumbeat thumped somewhere near the center of the gathering, slow enough to feel like a pulse beneath the ground. When the chief approached him, she placed her hands on his shoulders with a grateful firmness. "You helped our hunters when they were weak," she said. "Our people remember kindness. Our daughters honor it." He gave a small, awkward smile, unsure whether to bow or step back. "Ma'am, I was just doing what any man would've." "No," she replied, her eyes steady. "Not any man." She gestured to the 3 sisters behind her. They stepped forward, almost in unison, though each carried herself differently. The eldest, maybe 23, held a quiet authority. Her posture was straight, her gaze calm, like she understood more than she ever said aloud. The middle sister, lively-eyed and confident, carried a spark in her expression, something adventurous. The youngest, soft-faced and artistic in her movement, clutched a small woven charm as if it helped her stay brave. He felt the air shift as they approached. A faint scent of sage and warm earth drifted from their clothes. His heartbeat echoed the slow drumbeat, steady but uncertain. Then the chief spoke words he thought were symbolic, nothing more. "Our daughter will stand with you, in gratitude and in honor. This is our promise." He nodded instinctively, trying to be polite, wanting to show respect. He didn't fully grasp the weight of the sentence, not the way the tribe did. He thought she meant a simple ceremonial, "thank you," a gesture, nothing binding. The sisters exchanged glances, meaningful, almost shy. The eldest gave him a respectful nod. The middle smiled with a flicker of mischief. The youngest lowered her eyes but peeked up at him with gentle curiosity. He only felt warmth. Appreciation. Maybe even awe at being welcomed so sincerely. But the people around them murmured approval. Some touched their hands to their chests. A few of the older women whispered blessings in Apache. He felt something tighten in his stomach. Had he agreed to something without realizing it? Yet when the chief placed a light woven sash over his shoulder, a sign of acceptance, he simply bowed his head out of politeness. He didn't know that in their customs, accepting the sash meant accepting the daughters who stood behind her. And all 3 sisters had stepped forward. Morning in the Apache village always began quietly, no sudden noise, no rushed movement, just the soft stirrings of a community waking with the sun. The cowboy rose slowly from the woven mat they'd given him, rubbing sleep from his eyes as shafts of dawn light slipped through the cracks of the lodge. He expected to see an empty courtyard outside. Instead, the 3 sisters were already awake. From a distance, he watched them briefly, each of them moving with a grace he couldn't help but notice. The eldest was helping an elder gather water pots, the middle sister was adjusting the straps on a young boy's pony, the youngest sat cross-legged, braiding colored strings into something delicate and beautiful. They looked peaceful, collected, not at all like people involved in anything complicated. That eased him, at least until an older woman approached him with a bundle of warm cornbread. "You slept well?" she asked, offering it to him with a kind smile. "Yes, ma'am." "Thank you." He took a piece politely. "The chief's ceremony last night, was that normal?" The woman hesitated. A small pause. A shift in her expression he didn't catch until later. "Normal," she said softly. "But meaningful. Very meaningful." He swallowed. "Meaningful how?" She looked him in the eye, gentle, patient, but very serious. When you accepted the chief's promise, you accepted the daughters who stood behind her. He froze. His stomach dropped, but not from fear, more from sudden realization, the way a person feels when a door they barely glanced at suddenly swings wide open. Hold on, he said, lowering his voice. I thought it was a gratitude ritual. It is, she replied. But gratitude among our people is not only spoken. It is lived. It is shared. He blinked, trying to steady his breathing. So what does it mean that all three sisters stood behind her? The woman exhaled slowly, as if choosing her words carefully. It means, she said gently, that each of them was willing to honor that promise with you. And you accepted. He felt heat rising in his chest. He looked over at the sisters again, the way they interacted, the soft glances they occasionally cast his way. None of it had seemed romantic at the time. But now, every detail felt loaded with meaning. The eldest met his eyes briefly and gave him a small, respectful nod. The middle sister flashed a quick smile, as if amused by something she wasn't saying. The youngest looked away the moment he glanced her direction, cheeks warming, fingers fumbling in her weaving. He swallowed hard. Ma'am. I didn't know. I believe you, the older woman said. But they don't see this as a mistake. They see it as fate arriving early. He ran a hand through his hair, heart pounding. What do they expect from me? The woman's voice softened. Not possession. Not advantage. Only intention. Only truth. Then she stepped aside as the sisters approached, three silhouettes walking toward him with quiet confidence, their footsteps stirring the morning dust. He realized, in that moment, that nothing in his life had prepared him for what came next. The chief suggested he stay a few days, to breathe, to think, to let your heart settle. He didn't argue. He couldn't. His mind was spinning, and the quiet steadiness of the village felt like the only place he could untangle anything. By midday, the sisters took it upon themselves to show him their world. Not forcefully, not in a demanding way, more like three warm breezes drifting through the same valley, each brushing past him differently. The eldest sister, strength and stillness, she was the first to guide him beyond the village. They walked a narrow deer trail shaded by tall pines, the air cool and fragrant with sap. She kept her steps measured, her voice gentle and assured. You walk like a man who carries many thoughts, she said. He chuckled softly. I suppose I do. She didn't press. She simply walked beside him, occasionally brushing his shoulder with hers when the path narrowed. The touch wasn't intimate, just grounding. Calming. Every so often, she pointed out plants used for teas and healing, explaining their uses with patient clarity. Her presence felt like a warm hand on the back, steadying without ever pushing. The middle sister, laughter by the river later, the middle sister found him near the corral and waved him over with a grin that could brighten a cloudy day. Come, she said. You need fresh water and a lighter mind. Before he could respond, she was already leading him toward the river. The water ran clear and quick over smooth stones, sunlight scattering across its surface like broken glass. She taught him how to read footprints in the mud, how to tell deer from elk, rabbit from fox. Her approach was bold, playful. She didn't hesitate to place her hands over his, adjusting the angle of his fingers, standing close enough that he could feel her breath when she laughed. You learn fast, she teased. Or you teach well, he replied. She only grinned wider, nudging his arm with hers, light, friendly, but lingering just long enough to spark something warm in his chest. The youngest sister, quiet softness as the sun lowered, the youngest sister approached him with shy determination. If you wish, she murmured, I can show you my craft. She led him to a small shaded area where she kept her beadwork, carefully arranged patterns glowing with turquoise, bone, and bright red stones. Sitting beside him, she worked in silence for a moment, her shoulder lightly touching his. When she finally spoke, her voice trembled just slightly. Beauty takes time, she said, threading a bead with steady fingers. Like understanding. Like trust. He watched her hands, the gentleness of her movements, the way her hair fell forward when she leaned closer to show him a pattern. She wasn't bold like her sister or steady like the eldest, she carried her strength quietly, like a soft flame protected from the wind. Her closeness stirred something tender, an instinct to protect, to understand her fully. His heart grows more confused, and more attached by the time night arrived, he felt changed. Each sister had revealed a different world, a different pull on his heart. He wasn't in love, not yet, but something had opened inside him, something warm, bright, and undeniably complicated. And as he lay down to sleep in the quiet of the lodge, he whispered into the darkness, I don't know how to choose, or if I even should. Nightfall settled over the Apache village like a warm blanket, soft, steady, steeped in the scent of mesquite smoke and cooling earth. But inside the small lodge where he lay, there was no comfort. No calm. Only the echo of 3 different voices, 3 different touches, and a single promise he had accepted without understanding. He lay on his back, staring at the ceiling of woven reeds, listening to the quiet crackle of a lantern flame. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw one of the sisters. The eldest, steady as a mountain trail, her presence like shelter. The middle sister, laughing in the river light, drawing him into her world with fearless warmth. The youngest, soft-spoken, gentle, carrying kindness like something sacred. His heart beat unevenly, a mix of admiration, confusion, and a guilt he couldn't quite name. How could one man be drawn to 3 different women in 3 different ways? And how could he honor their customs without breaking someone's heart? He let out a long breath, feeling the weight settle over him. Outside, the sisters sat by the fire. He heard voices, soft, respectful, almost hesitant. Curiosity pushed him to rise quietly and peek through a small gap in the lodge wall. The 3 sisters sat close to a small fire, flames reflecting in their eyes. They weren't arguing. They weren't jealous. They weren't competing. They were talking. Honestly. Carefully. The eldest spoke first, her hands folded neatly in her lap. He carries the promise heavily. Anyone can see it. The middle sister poked a stick at the flames. Of course he does. He thinks he's already chosen without knowing. He fears hurting one of us, the youngest whispered. He fears choosing wrong. A long, tender silence followed. Then the middle sister sighed. Do we all feel something for him? The question hung in the air. The eldest nodded quietly. I feel peace with him. The youngest breathed shakily. I feel seen. The middle sister smiled sadly. And I feel alive. Their honesty struck him harder than he expected. His chest tightened. These weren't 3 women hoping to be chosen like competitors, they were sisters trying to understand their own hearts, trying to navigate this with grace. He stepped away from the wall, feeling an ache of humility. He wasn't the center of their world, they were the center of each other's. No matter what happened, someone would be changed. Maybe all of them. His thoughts spiral into the dark. He paced the small room, fingers running through his hair. 100 thoughts circled him like restless spirits. Do I deserve any of them? Should I leave before I cause harm? What if I pick the wrong sister? What if my heart is split in too many directions? He pressed his palms against his eyes. In the quiet, he finally admitted the truth. I'm afraid, he whispered to the empty room. Afraid of hurting them, and afraid of losing them. The night outside softened, the fire crackled, the sisters' voices faded into gentle laughter, and a light breeze brushed through the doorway. This wasn't just a cultural misunderstanding anymore. It was becoming something real. Something alive. Something he wanted, but didn't yet know how to hold. And as he lay back down, one final thought drifted through his mind, tomorrow. I need answers. From them. And from myself. The next morning arrived without hurry, sunlight sliding gently between the lodge walls like a quiet invitation. The cowboy stepped outside with a heaviness still clinging to his chest, the memory of last night's whispered confessions lingering like smoke on his clothes. But something was different. The air felt expectant. Measured. Like the village was holding its breath. He found the three sisters waiting near the edge of the meadow, a wide, open stretch of tall sunlit grass swaying like a golden sea. They stood together, not as three women competing for affection, but as a single, steady unit. Their silhouettes were soft in the morning glow, their expressions gentle but serious. The eldest stepped forward first. "Walk with us," she said. No pressure. No command. Just an invitation spoken with calm authority. He nodded, following them into the meadow. The grass brushed against their legs, whispering softly as they moved deeper into the open field where the wind carried the scent of wildflowers and warm earth. The heart of the conversation, they formed a small circle, the sisters positioning themselves with practiced harmony, eldest on his right, middle sister on his left, youngest directly across from him. It almost looked ceremonial, but their faces told a different story. This was personal. Deeply personal. The eldest spoke first, her eyes steady. "We know our custom frightened you." He swallowed. "It didn't frighten me. It just surprised me." "Then you are kinder than most men," she replied softly. "Another might have run." The middle sister laughed quietly. "We expected you to run, honestly." The youngest looked at him with a soft, trembling smile. "But we hoped you wouldn't." He felt the tension in his chest loosen a little. Their fears, one by one, the eldest placed her hand over her heart. "I want you to understand something. For us, this is not a transaction. Not a claim." Her voice softened, warm as a summer evening. "Our people believe relationships must be chosen, freely, with intention." The middle sister stepped closer, her shoulder brushing his lightly. "We do not want to be given. We want to be seen." The youngest finally spoke, her voice the quietest yet the most vulnerable. "And we want to know that whoever you choose, chose us because they felt it here." She pressed her hand gently against her chest. Her sincerity hit him so deeply he almost forgot to breathe. Their promise to him, the eldest reached for his hand, not grabbing, not pulling, just offering a steady touch. "We will not fight one another for your choice." The middle sister rested her arm lightly against his. "We won't pressure you." The youngest took a small step forward, sunlight catching the beads woven in her hair. "We only ask for truth. Nothing else." He felt surrounded, not trapped, but held. Supported. Understood in a way that felt rare and unexpectedly comforting. "You're giving me more grace than I deserve," he murmured. The eldest shook her head gently. "You deserve honesty. And space to understand your own heart." A knot finally loosened, standing in that sunlit meadow, with their hands resting near his, their eyes open and unafraid. He felt something shift inside him. The fear didn't vanish, but it softened. The confusion didn't disappear, but it quieted. For the first time, he felt clarity rising like dawn. He wasn't expected to take all three. He wasn't expected to honor a mistake. He was expected to choose, with sincerity, not obligation. And each sister, in her own way, was allowing him the freedom to do exactly that. He woke before dawn. Not to the usual sounds of the village or the soft crackle of a morning fire, but to the weight of his own heart tugging him out of sleep. The air was cool, tinted blue with the first hints of sunrise. The world felt hushed, as if nature itself understood he needed stillness. So he walked. Past the sleeping lodges, past the corral where the horses snorted softly, and out toward the ridge that overlooked the valley. The sky stretched wide and pale above him, and the breeze carried the scent of sagebrush and morning dew. Up there, alone with the whispering wind, he could finally think. Remembering each sister, he closed his eyes and let the memories come, slowly, one at a time. The eldest sister, steady as warm stone beneath the sun. Her calm voice grounding him. The way she moved through the world with quiet certainty. With her, he felt safe, like he could lean into her steadiness and become better for it. The middle sister, bright, bold, and alive with a spark that made him laugh even when he didn't mean to. Her fearless closeness, her easy smile. With her, he felt his own spirit wake up, like she watered something inside him he didn't know needed tending. The youngest, soft-voiced, thoughtful, her hands gentle on every piece of beadwork she touched. The way she listened. The shyness in her eyes when they met his. With her, he felt seen, truly seen, without needing to say much at all. 3 different loves, each calling to different parts of him. He stood on the ridge with his hat pressed against his chest and whispered the truth aloud, I care about all of them, but only one feels like home. The moment he said it, a warmth filled his chest, not excitement, not fear, but a settling. A certainty. He knew. Returning to the village by the time he walked back, the village was stirring. Smoke rose in gentle trails from cooking fires. Horses shook sleep from their coats. Children darted around with morning energy. And the sisters were waiting. All 3 stood near the chief's lodge, sunlight painting their hair in shades of amber and copper. Their expressions were open, not expectant, not demanding, just ready. He approached slowly, heart hammering against his ribs. The eldest gave him a soft nod, the middle sister lifted her chin with brave warmth, the youngest clasped her hands together, hope trembling in her eyes. He stopped in front of them. I've made my choice, he said quietly. The wind paused, as if listening. The moment of truth he stepped toward the sister his heart had settled on, whether it was the wise eldest, the bold middle sister, or the gentle youngest. Your final script can choose one depending on the emotional direction you want. Her breath caught. Her eyes glistened. She stepped closer, slowly, carefully, as if afraid to break the moment. When he took her hands in his, everything inside him stilled. You make me feel like I'm standing where I'm meant to be, he whispered. Her forehead touched his, a soft gesture full of reverence and unspoken emotion. Her fingers tightened gently around his. Behind them, the other 2 sisters exhaled, not in heartbreak, but in acceptance. In grace. They stepped forward and formed a circle around the new pair, pulling both of them into a warm embrace. No jealousy. No bitterness. Just connection. Just family. A village breathes again. The chief approached, eyes shining with quiet approval. It is good, she said. A choice made with intention is a choice that lives long. The cowboy closed his eyes for a moment, relief, gratitude, and affection washing through him all at once. He hadn't just chosen a partner. He had chosen a path. And the sisters, every single one of them, had made the path easy to walk. The prairie was silent that evening, the kind of deep, windless silence that made every breath feel heavier. The ranch house stood alone against the fading crimson sky, its windows glowing with warm lamplight. Inside, the Apache woman sat beside the table, her hands tightly clasped around a worn deer-hide pouch, her last belonging from her tribe. She looked up when the cowboy stepped in, dust on his boots, worry on his face. For a moment, neither spoke. The air between them felt different tonight, thicker, almost trembling. The weight of everything that had happened over the last week seemed to settle in the room with them, her escape, his protection, the tribe's anger, the sheriff's threats, the long nights tending her wounds, the silent moments where their eyes met but words failed. She rose from her chair slowly, her long dark hair falling over one shoulder, her expression conflicted and apologetic. You have done more for me than anyone ever has, she said softly. More than my own people, more than I deserved. He took a step toward her, confused. Why does it sound like you're saying goodbye? Her gaze faltered. Because maybe I should. The statement hit him harder than he expected. He swallowed the tightness in his throat. Why? After everything? After you finally got safe? She turned away, running her fingers along the window frame, watching the last fragments of light vanish over the hills. My tribe marked me as unworthy. A burden. A mistake. Even now, I feel their eyes on me, even though they are miles away. And I fear, she paused, voice trembling. I fear I will bring that misfortune to you too. He stepped closer, slow, steady, deliberate, like approaching a wild horse that had been wounded too many times. You didn't bring misfortune. You brought life back to this place. Back to me. His voice was raw, unguarded, more honest than anything he had said in years. She turned, startled by the sincerity in his tone. Why would you say that? Because before you came, this ranch was just grass and fences. A house with no reason for the lamp to stay lit at night. His voice warmed. But you gave it a heartbeat again. Her breath caught. Her eyes softened, filled with something between fear and longing. You make it sound so simple. It is simple, he replied gently. I don't want you to leave. Silence stretched again, but this time it wasn't heavy. It was fragile. She took a small step toward him, then another. The space between them narrowed until she could feel the warmth of his presence, the safety in it, the sincerity he carried like a second skin. But what if your people object, she whispered. They already do, he answered with a sad smile. But I've learned something, folks don't get to choose who you save, or who you stay with. Her eyes glistened. And if I choose to stay? He lifted her chin gently, his touch feather-light. Then this becomes your home. Not because you need shelter, but because you deserve a place where you're wanted. Her final wall crumbled. She nodded, not out of fear, or desperation, but out of a quiet, dawning belief that she truly belonged. And for the first time since her exile, she smiled.